But I think the best is yet to come for Jalen Green as a player, not only this season, that's obvious, but even in terms of his career, I don't think he has reached the peak yet. I think that's coming.
The Phoenix Suns have had a little bit of a low point in the season, but it's always a high point when we can talk to all NBA podcast Tim Legler. Tim, I got to ask you, it is late February, which means the trade deadline has passed. The Suns have been in a little bit of a dip post All-Star break. Do you feel like it was maybe a mistake by the Suns to let it ride at the trade deadline and not make any big moves?
I do not. Look, you can't anticipate something like this. And you looked at the team that they had, the rotation that they had created. They've been one of the great stories in the league, honestly. A team that completely changed the way they're viewed, the narrative around the organization, around their competitive culture. They completely flipped it. And so that's a really difficult thing to do in one off season. But they were able to do that. And in large part because they had created a rotation and a chemistry that was really working for them. And the guys they had brought in were having a big impact. And yet you hadn't seen Jalen Green yet, for the most part to that point. So, no, I don't think it was a mistake because you still had Jalen Green sitting there waiting to come back. He's an explosive talent. That was a whole nother level that you're infusing into the lineup whenever that was going to happen. So in some ways, like that's the piece that you're waiting for. That was the big move. And you're waiting for him to finally play. The Dillon Brooks thing obviously paid off to a far greater extent than anybody could have imagined when he came in there. We knew that he was going to bring certain aspects to the team they needed. No one saw this offensive explosion coming out of him this consistently throughout the year. I don't think anybody predicted what Colin Gillespie was going to turn into right before our eyes, right? So a lot of things were happening positive that they didn't quite see, and now they look up, go back, to the trading deadline. It's only a few weeks ago. And look where they were and look how everything was going and everything was playing out. And you were still waiting on Jalen Green. It was like, okay, this is great. And it doesn't mean necessarily you're going to contend this year, but like you're a legitimate relevant team in the Western Conference playoff picture. I don't think I'm going to second guess that now because of the Dillon Brooks injury. I'm just not. I have a lot of respect for what they've created there. It's going to be a hard time winning without Devin Booker right now and without Dillon Brooks for most of the rest of the regular season. That's going to be very difficult to continue to keep your head above water. You're going to lose more games than you thought you would. But overall, the big picture is everything's moving in a positive direction. I think that's where you need to focus.
Tim, kind of to the Dillon Brooks portion of your answer. Obviously, he's out until close to playoff time, probably at the earliest. Just in kind of assessing this team, assuming health for the other pieces, how do you see the challenges that come with not having that kind of enforcer, tone-setting type of guy for both ends of the floor?
It's tough, man, because, what Dillon Brooks does is he gives you an edge when you run out of the tunnel every night. And you know that, like, if this is going to turn into an alley fight, we got a guy that wants that smoke. And he's going to guard a lot of different guys on the floor. He's going to irritate them. He's going to make them less efficient. He's going to get in their head a little bit. He does a lot of the things that few guys on your roster are going to want to do. And he does it at a high level. And on top of it was giving you this offense, which, has been sort of fickle for him. He's been a little bit streaky, but he had found this rhythm and he had the green light, obviously. And so that changed things for him here. They let him do what he wanted to offensively, and he found another gear, which is hard to do when you've been around the league for a while to find that. And he did. So you can't replace that easily. You just can't. I mean, there's an edge on one end of the floor, but then he's also giving you solid production on the other end of the floor as your second best offensive player. So that's just impossible to just replace by, whoever you have on your roster, just plug and play, hope it works out. Their best chance for weathering the storm during this time is if Jalen Green finds his footing and finds some efficiency and some rhythm. Obviously, he's really struggled to do that. He's struggled to shoot the ball. I don't think it's in any way indicative of what this is going to look like long term. He was out for a while. He is also – it's one thing to be out and then you come back and rejoin the same team you were on. That's one thing. Everybody there kind of knows. Way easier to, in a shorter period of time, find your way back to that level. When you are going through this, you're out and you change teams. Number one, nobody puts more pressure on yourself than the player themselves. They want this to happen so quickly. And it's just not going to be when you've been out. New environment, new team, new coach, new system, new fan base. Everything's different. Give him time. He's an electric talent. He's going to have some nights and some shot selection. He's going to turn the ball over sometimes. Going to make you a little bit crazy. But I think overall, the good is gonna outweigh that stuff, and he's gonna be fine. And so that's your best chance. How do we weather this? Hope that Jalen Green finds it and finds it soon to give you that talent that can like sort of overcome personnel and scheme defensively, because he's that good. Right now, it's not happening for him. I'm confident that it will.
I think Jalen Green is such an interesting player to talk about right now, because the discourse a lot of the times when it comes to sports is like very black and white. It's like it's this or it's that. But Jalen, there's such an interesting kind of middle ground with him where he has the talent, he has the flashes, but he also has some of the lowlights. Do you feel like we've still yet to see a major improvement that's coming for Jalen Green? Or do you feel like, yeah, the talent's there, but we've kind of just seen who he's going to be so far in his career?
I think for the most part, his warts, right? You know that shot selection and like game management, right, can be a question for him. And can that get better as he matures as a player? He's only 24 years old. Of course, you can get to be 26, 27, 28, find that sweet spot. Your prime doesn't begin, in my opinion, to 25 to 31. That's your real peak prime years when you combine talent. You've already gotten some money. You have done some things statistically, and you're just smarter and more mature, and you just handle life better. A lot of times that's the age where you start to, maybe you have your first child, and things change for guys. That's why I've always said 25 to 31. That's when you really feel like a grown man playing in a grown man's league, and everything can really start to click for you if you have the talent. So he hasn't even reached that yet. He's 24 years old. We know some of the warts. He turns it over a little too much. Shot selection can be a little bit questionable. I do think he's averaged 21, 22 points a game in this league, couple different years. Yeah, I think he absolutely can find that. And is there even a level above that? Yeah, I think Jalen Green could get to 23, 24 points a game, but he's going to show some of those other things. They are going to surface, but you have to, I always look at players and say, man, look, unless this is just killing you every night, sometimes you got to just value a guy for what he's good at, and just understand there's going to be some weaknesses, and there's going to be some things you're going to have to live with, and you just hope that they don't surface at a really bad time for you in a key moment. But I think the best is yet to come for Jalen Green as a player, not only this season, that's obvious, but even in terms of his career, I don't think he has reached the peak yet. I think that's coming.
Tim, with the Suns, looking at them operating without Devin Booker over this recent stretch, I feel like there's some things to glean from how they're operating, because he's not going to be able to play 48 minutes in meaningful basketball. So kind of having somebody that draws the attention of double teams and the type of gravity with help that he provides. When you don't have that on the court, what's maybe something you're looking for from the Suns to kind of turn a corner so that they can add him to that mix instead of it all being incumbent on him to kind of get the blender going for him?
Yeah, it's tough. Listen, man, again, it's tough. Like certain guys in this league, because they're such a threat, it's not even the nights that they're making shots and the production level that's tangible in a box score. Everybody can see that. It's how much other stuff is created by their mere presence. That's what you really can't replace. And so honestly, this is just a period of time. They're going through it right now. It's weather the storm. Weather the storm, man. The one thing that they can do, then they've changed, they compete, and they compete consistently. And, there are teams in this league, and I describe it as having non-negotiable effort standards. And you can see those teams. I saw two of them last night, Oklahoma City and Detroit. Like, they just don't take plays off. They don't take shortcuts. They make you work for every square inch of real estate on their defensive end of the floor. I would put San Antonio in that category. Non-negotiable effort. That's what they expect. That's the culture they've created. I think Phoenix is getting into that category. Boston, I think, is in that category. Like, they're getting into that category. And so that's gonna give them a chance every night, particularly in this league when there's so many injuries. You're catching some of these teams missing guys. And you can absolutely just make up your mind to outwork and outwill them on a given night. Now, it's not going to be easy because you're missing your top scoring talent. So again, if Jalen Green finds his stride and you compete every night, you're going to be able to still navigate this period of time, and just do the best you can to keep your head above water, make 500 a realistic goal while you're missing those guys, and know that, hey, help's coming down the road, and you can still be a difficult out in the postseason.
Legs, I don't know if you know this, but the NBA season's long. It's very long.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as fans, and I'm speaking as a fan here, we take these low moments so heavily around, January, February. You've seen it with the Rockets at the end of 2025, the Knicks at the beginning of 2026. Just as somebody who's experienced that grind, can you speak about getting through these low moments in the season and why having a bad stretch or a bad month isn't indicative of a bad team?
Yes, I can, because I can just tell you this, the way NBA coaches and players look at it, you compartmentalize the season into fragments, and you understand that there's going to be a minimum of 2 to 3 of these downward fragments where you're dealing with stuff, whatever reason, you're not playing well. Sometimes it's a chemistry issue that's got to be resolved. Like something's going on that doesn't feel right in the air. Sometimes it's just injuries, and you're going to have 2 or 3 of those every year. You look at the bigger picture, totality of the product you're putting out there. There's been significant forward movement with this organization. That's what you need to focus on, not the micro night to night. As a fan, that's what you do. You sit down, you watch, you live and die with every possession, and I get it, and that's what fans do, and that's great. But the bigger picture internally with the team, and if you could step back as a fan, have a little bit of broader perspective on, man, how much better do I feel about the Phoenix Suns now than I did over the last couple of years? And I don't know about you guys, but I feel a lot better as an outward analyst looking at the situation. That's kind of what you have to focus on when you go through the downward turns, and knowing that, like, one of the favorite expressions my mom used to give me, may she rest in peace, she used to always say, man, this too shall pass. It's a big one. It's gotten me through a lot of stuff in my life. And I think that's kind of what NBA coaching staffs, how they approach everything. This too shall pass. Nothing is permanent. Everything is going to either improve, or if you're rolling, you're going to hit one of these. Everything, good and bad, shall come to pass, and then you deal with the next fragment of your schedule. And hopefully at the end of it, you have your team upright, healthy. The guys you expected to have are there, and then you're ready to go enter battle in the postseason, where like every night is an individual war in and of itself, and you're trying to race to a number in a series.
Tim, to wrap things up, just in looking at the Suns roster as a whole, we've talked about Jalen, we've talked about Devin, we've talked about Dillon. Outside of those 3 guys, who else on the roster catches your attention whenever you do tune into a Suns game, and what are the reasons why behind that?
Well, listen, Colin Gillespie has to be at the top of the list, just because I think he has answered the question about whether, you didn't know if he was an NBA player, if he was going to have a long NBA career, despite the incredible college career. What a story, he has had. He's a winner, and he's overcome everything. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen for you just because you have the will to do it. Like, there's a lot of things have to happen to go right for you in terms of talent, opportunity, the right coach that believes in you. There's a lot of stuff that has to play out. He's gone from guy that was like hanging on to like, oh, okay, this guy actually can play in the league, and it's a nice story. Like, we'll see what his career's path's going to be. To no, this guy's an impact player. Like, he's an impact player now for the Suns. So I think that's a guy clearly that jumps out to me. Jordan Goodwin has jumped out to me this year. And you love to see guys give him shout outs the way that Dillon has in the past. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think for Mark Williams even is a guy that like he's a guy that always impressed me. He got involved in that situation where he got the trade rescinded with the Lakers, and it was kind of a weird situation, and people were wondering what he was. But I think in certain systems, certain settings, he's a perfect fit for guys. So I've liked him a lot too. I just have gained a lot of respect for their team, and Jordan Ott, top of the list. Now, this, unfortunately, whatever happens here over the next period of time without Dillon Brooks and Booker, but particularly Dillon Brooks because he's going to be out so long, the record now that the Suns may have by the time you get to the postseason may have derailed Jordan Ott's chances at Coach of the Year, because I think he was the front runner. It's going to be harder for him, I think, to hold on to it. But the good news is, whether he wins the award or not, you've got a guy that now has proven that like he has great command of the team. And I think those guys have a lot of faith and belief in him. So you made a good hire, and that's really important going forward.
Legs, have a yes or no question to get out of here on.
All right.
There will be 8 teams in the playoffs in the Western Conference. When it starts, will the Phoenix Suns be one of them?
Well, give me a second here. I got to take a look, because that's a yes or no, and I'm going to give you a yes or no. You want to know, will they be in a best-of-7 series?
Yes. Playing over, are they one of 8 that are in?
Yes.
That's what I like to hear, Legs. Well, we'll talk to you again before then. In the meantime, of course, you catch Legs on the All NBA podcast, plus, of course, doing fantastic work out at ESPN. If you're a basketball fan, you know about Legs. So we appreciate you taking time to hang out with us and chat about some Suns basketball.